Which is the best fight in One Piece? Luffy versus Arlong or Luffy versus Crocodile?
Luffy versus Arlong.
Luffy versus Arlong or Luffy versus Enel?
That Enel fight is terrible. Luffy versus Arlong.
Luffy versus Arlong or Luffy versus Rob Lucci?
Rob Lucci.
Luffy versus Rob Lucci or Luffy versus Magellan?
Damn. Magellan.
Luffy versus Magellan or Luffy versus Doflamingo?
Doflamingo. Oh, I'm switching on my answer. D over here. Yeah, Doflamingo.
Luffy versus Doflamingo or Frankie versus Senor Pink?
Yo, I love Senor Pink. I'm gonna go Senor Pink.
Frankie versus Senor Pink or Law versus Virgo?
Ooh, where you split the mountain. Law versus, Virgo, yeah.
Law versus Virgo or Zoro versus Pika?
Zoro versus Pika, yo, I hold it down for my boy Zoro, yeah.
Zoro versus Pika or Luffy versus Katakuri?
Luffy versus Katakuri, yo.
Luffy versus Katakuri or Luffy versus Kaido?
Luffy versus Kaido.
Luffy versus Kaido or Zoro versus King?
Zoro versus King.
Zoro versus King or Ace versus Blackbeard?
Zoro versus King.
Zoro versus King or Brook versus Big Mom?
Zoro versus King.
Zoro versus King or Sanji versus Queen?
Zoro versus King.
Zoro versus King or Luffy versus Kizaru?
Zoro versus King.
Is Zoro versus King the best fight in One Piece?
Absolutely the best fight in One Piece, bro.